Welcome back to City Trends. I have my next guest with me. It's Neill Swift, and he's from 111 Coffee. And I actually met Neill going into his store and buying a cup of coffee. And I told him this is a great cup of coffee. And he shared a little bit about how long he's been in business there. And I said, you know what, we need to have you on the show. Thanks a lot for coming on, Neill.
Thank you, George.
And can you share a little bit with the audience where you're located, a little bit about your coffee, how long you've been there, and what you're offering the community?
Absolutely. We're right in downtown Hanford. We're at 111 West 7th Street, right in between Dowdy and Irwin, right at Main Street, 7th, just not too far from Superior Dairy. We get people all the time coming to the train, Superior Dairy, walking right on over. We are a artisan coffee shop that really focuses on the craft style of coffee that's coming in the third wave of coffee that's been happening in the last 10 years or so. We offer handcrafted coffees, hand-tamped, locally sourced roasters, handmade syrups, muddled drinks. It's just a different experience for a coffee shop.
And it was great for me to come out there and meet you, because I used to live in Seattle when I was on active duty, and so I was there when coffee, the gourmet coffees, really took off. And so it was nice to find your store here locally and offering a lot of the same things that they had up there. What's some of the new things that are coming out, and what's the direction that coffee's going right now?
The direction is fresh, just kind of like the food movement. It's foodies, it's craft beer, it's craft coffee, with everybody wanting to do more local source, like very much California cuisine but brought in. Where we can't grow coffee, here we can source it from local roasters and support local businesses. But we're doing new and fresh things like nitro coffee, where we take our cold brew and we infuse it with nitrogen, and we do a 14-hour cold brew at 75 degrees, pull that, keg it ourselves, so we're not purchasing somebody else's, and then we infuse it for at least 24 hours with the nitrogen. And even though it's black coffee, most people come in and say it has a sweet flavor to it, maybe even tea-esque, and it's straight black. And we do light roasted coffee, so that you get more caffeine, because you'll get more caffeine with the light roast and the dark roast. You're not.
See, I didn't know that at first either. You would think, the darker it is, the stronger it's going to be, but that's not always the case.
No, it's just like anything. The more you cook it, the more nutrients come out. So a lot of people where we have been accustomed to this French roast idea, where you want the bold flavors, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting all the antioxidants, and you're actually getting the caffeine, and you're getting at the things that contribute to your health that coffee provides for you. And honestly, the product has the most from its source. So where you can't serve green coffee, which is it's raw, you have to cook it a little, like you would do with beef or any other sort of raw item, so that we can grind it. It's the same way with coffee. In the lighter the roast, the more nutrients and the more things that it has to offer, like caffeine.
Yes, and I have a medical background, and for years coffee went back and forth. Coffee's good for you, coffee's not good for you. The information's in, the data's in. Coffee is excellent for you, and actually the more you drink, the better it is for you. And they're showing some real benefits. Along with the antioxidants, there's also some benefits to your heart. And then for those of you that aren't familiar with antioxidants, those are the things that will help stave off aging and help you stay virile. So I love coffee, and so when I found out that there's added benefits to it, it kind of supported me drinking as much as I do, and so I was really happy to hear that news.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're doing a lot of fun things with our coffee, where we're not just doing espresso drinks, which we do have there. We do the fresh grind as fresh as possible, so that the bean isn't stale, that you're getting as much from it, and we tamp it there by hand, espresso it on a two-group traditional Italian-made espresso machine that we have. But we also play with a lot of our cold brew coffees, where we coarse grind it, and like I had mentioned, steep it for 14 hours before pulling it. And that's a very specific amount of time, and I'll get into that right now, where 12 hours would be a light, not as much coffee in your drink, and it's going to be light. And 16 actually starts allowing the acidity and bitterness to come back in like you would do with black coffee. 14 sits right in that middle of the pocket where it gives you a great flavor of the bean that we're using, and that actually changes depending maybe even on the day or week. Even though we buy from the same roasters, our bean districts like Colombia, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Guatemala do change, which is really fun. And then we let that sit. 14 gives you this great sweet flavor where you're actually getting the tones of the bean and the districts that they're in, like where you would come in and get a Guatemala and it would be dark chocolate and blackberry, or you'd come in and get an Ethiopia, which is going to have apricot and peach with a little bit of hops to it. And those are things that we try to focus on and bring those flavors out to let people know that there's more to coffee than just a dark roast where you're actually covering the natural flavors of that specific district and that specific, the nutrients that come from that land.
Yeah, you got to hit that sweet point. And that's what I learned in Seattle when I was up there, is a lot of people will call themselves baristas, but not everybody's a barista. Most people out there are just serving coffee. To be a barista, I think you saw when he elaborated on some of those points, there's a science behind what they're doing, and they really need to have a firm grasp and understand what they're doing to make a fine cup of coffee, and that's what 111's doing, and that's why I knew I had to bring them on. And do you guys have anything coming up in the future that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, we have a few things that we haven't planned. On one of our walls, if you come in, you have all these pictures of Hanford and whatnot, but we're wanting to start teaming up with local artists, have them come in and do small exhibitions, maybe do like a live art there and have those. And at the same time, we're looking to reach out to local musicians and have them come in as well. But we want to do, any coffee shop can have one person come in, singer-songwriter, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those people are great, and we'll have them as well. But just like the experience that you get when you come into 111, which is unique to what we're doing with more of a coffee bar or a coffee lab aspect instead of a coffee shop, we want to do that with our music as well. So currently we're even looking for musicians to hit us up and maybe, hey, you want to do an unplugged hip-hop set? Great, let's go with it. Hey, I have some jazz musicians with a blues or R&B singer. Let's mix those together and actually want to be there for the community and support local artists and local musicians and local writers to have maybe a sit-in and a reading. Those are all things that we have planned to do even within the next month or so.
Outstanding. We're going to have to cut to a commercial, but before we do that, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience, Neill?
Yeah, absolutely. When we started this coffee shop, it's actually owned by Koinonia Church in Hanford, and they're a great organization. But what the idea was to love downtown, to come into the downtown that needed some revitalization. The downtown is there, but it had kind of depleted a little, and we chose the location specifically where we are to kind of hopefully start, or not start, but piggyback on what other people are trying to do, where we have other restaurants that have come in that are doing unique things, to be able to uplift what downtown is doing and love on our community and support our local businesses like Bon Coteau, where we get all of our local source baked items, or LT Sue Tea Room, where we get all of our fresh teas. These are just things that we're doing, but we're also going out and supporting all of our furniture is local made from, people that made it handcrafted in town, or even came and brought their stuff in to make it in shop. So all these things, those are just elements to what we're doing. Absolutely.
Outstanding. And that's the direction that business is going today. Is everybody has to make a living, but can we make a living and enrich the community at the same time? And that's what 111 is doing. And thanks a lot for coming on, Neill. I really appreciate it. And we got to cut to commercial, and we'll be right back, folks.